You think you are confident because you keep showing up. You think you are strong because you don't complain. But what if none of that is strength? What if the reason people ignore you, delay you, disrespect you, interrupt you, and quietly take advantage of you is not because they are powerful, but because you are predictable? Right now, there are people around you who know exactly how far they can push you. They know you will answer fast. They know you will explain yourself. They know you will say yes even when you want to say no. At work, you share an idea in a meeting. Someone else repeats it louder 5 minutes later. They get the credit. You tell yourself it's not worth creating tension. You stay quiet. In relationships, someone cancels on you again. No apology, no effort. You say, it's fine. Even though it isn't, you don't want to look needy, but inside you already feel small. With friends or family, your time is treated like it has no value. They call when they need something, they disappear when you need space, and you keep answering because saying no feels wrong, almost dangerous. You tell yourself you're being mature, understanding, good. But that's not what's happening. You weren't raised to be powerful. You were raised to be useful. From a young age, you were trained to be agreeable, polite, responsive, and available. School rewarded obedience. Society rewarded compliance. Culture taught you that approval equals safety, and without realizing it, you built your confidence on something fragile, how other people react to you. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli observed this exact weakness in men. And not in theory, in real courts, real power struggles, real lives. He saw that the men who needed to be liked were always the first to be controlled, and the men who were calm without approval were the ones others feared to cross. This video is not about becoming cruel. It is not about becoming loud or arrogant. It is about removing the invisible leash that approval has around your mind. In the next moments, you're going to hear truths that will make some people uncomfortable. Most will click away, because what I'm about to explain attacks the identity they built their life on. If you stay, you'll understand why people test you, why they push boundaries with you, why they feel entitled to your time, your energy, and your emotional reactions. And more importantly, you'll learn how to stop that, without fighting, without explaining, and without begging for respect. You'll learn how Machiavelli thought about confidence, not confidence as emotion, but confidence as position. Before we continue, do one thing. Put your phone face down, sit still, just listen. If this already hit something in you, write "I am the strategist" once in the comments. Not for me, for you, just to mark the moment you stopped seeing yourself as prey. Now let's break down the truths you were never taught. The first thing you must understand is this: the need for approval is not a personality trait. It is a survival habit. You don't seek approval because you are weak. You seek it because at some point in your life, approval kept you safe. As a child, approval meant love. As a student, approval meant rewards. As a young man, approval meant belonging. But Machiavelli understood something brutal. What keeps you safe in childhood makes you controllable in adulthood. In power dynamics, the one who needs reassurance is never in control. Because the one who provides reassurance decides the terms. Look closely at your daily behavior. How often do you explain yourself when you don't need to? How often do you soften your words so no one feels uncomfortable? How often do you answer immediately, just to avoid tension? Every time you do this, you are sending a signal, not with words, with energy. You are telling people, your reaction matters more than my position. Machiavelli warned rulers about this exact mistake. He said that when you rely on goodwill instead of respect, you place your power in other people's hands. Translated into modern life, this means something simple. The more you chase approval, the less people value your presence. This is why people interrupt you. This is why they delay responding to you. This is why they feel comfortable pushing your limits, not because they are evil, but because power always flows towards certainty. The first shift is internal, and it's uncomfortable. You must accept that not everyone will like the version of you that has boundaries, and that's not a problem, that's the point. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Most people misunderstand this line. Fear does not mean intimidation. It means consequence. A man who does not fear losing your access will never respect your presence. So the first law is simple, even if it's hard to swallow. Stop trying to be liked. Start being clear. Clarity creates gravity. Next time someone pushes you to answer fast, you don't rush. You say, "I'll think about it." And you stop talking. That silence will do more than any explanation ever could. The second truth is even more uncomfortable. Your availability is being mistaken for weakness. You were taught that being available makes you valuable, that responding fast shows commitment, that always being there makes you reliable. Machiavelli would call this a strategic error. In power dynamics, constant availability removes mystery, and without mystery, there is no respect. Look at how people treat things that are rare. They handle them carefully. They plan around them. They don't assume access. Now look at how people treat you when you're always reachable. They cancel last minute. They delay replies. They assume you'll adjust. This is not accidental. The human mind does not value what it can always have. Machiavelli advised rulers to control access to themselves, not out of ego, but because distance creates authority. When you are always present, always responding, always accommodating, you lower your perceived value. This doesn't mean you disappear. It means you stop orbiting other people's schedules. When someone cancels on you without respect, you don't complain. You don't confront emotionally. You simply stop rearranging your life for them. Absence teaches faster than words. The third truth cuts even deeper. Over-explaining is a confession of insecurity. Every time you explain your decision more than necessary, you are asking for permission after the fact. Watch yourself. You say no, then you add reasons. You justify. You soften. What you are really saying is, "Please understand me so I don't lose approval." Machiavelli understood that justification invites debate. And debate invites challenge. Powerful people state. They do not defend. This doesn't mean being rude. It means being final. When you explain too much, you teach others that your decisions are negotiable. So the next time you set a boundary, stop after the sentence ends, "No story, no apology." Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. The fourth truth is about emotional reactions. Your reactions are being studied. People test you not to hurt you, but to locate you. They interrupt to see if you react. They tease to see if you crack. They delay to see if you chase. Every visible reaction gives information. Machiavelli warned that the ruler who reacts emotionally becomes predictable. And predictability is the enemy of power. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means choosing when they are visible. Calm is not weakness. Calm is ambiguity. When people cannot read you, they become cautious. When they cannot predict you, they respect you. If someone disrespects you and you explode, you lose position. If you smile and disengage, you gain it. This is not about winning arguments. It's about controlling the frame. The fifth truth begins to change how people feel around you. Respect grows when people feel uncertainty around your response, not fear of violence, fear of losing access. When people don't know how you will respond, they behave better. This is why boundaries work best when they are quiet. Announced boundaries are challenged, silent boundaries are felt. Machiavelli did not teach men to threaten. He taught them to make consequences obvious without words. You don't warn repeatedly, you act once, and then you let reality speak. At this point, something inside you should feel different, not excited, not angry, calmer. That calm is the beginning of fearless confidence. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll break down how neediness destroys attraction, why being nice invites disrespect, and how to build a presence that makes people think twice before crossing you, without ever raising your voice. For now, sit with this. Watch your behavior today. Notice where you rush, explain, or seek approval. That awareness alone already puts you ahead of most men. By now, you should be noticing something uncomfortable, the moments where you feel the urge to explain yourself, the moments where silence feels heavy, the moments where you want to restore harmony, even if it costs you position. That discomfort is not weakness, it is withdrawal. You are withdrawing from a lifetime habit of approval, seeking, and habits don't disappear quietly, they fight back. This brings us to a truth most men never face. Neediness is not emotional, it is strategic. You were taught that neediness means wanting love, attention, or validation. Machiavelli saw it differently. He saw neediness as dependency, and dependency always creates a power imbalance. In every relationship, professional or personal, the one who needs more loses leverage, not because the other person is cruel, but because leverage flows toward independence. Think about attraction, not just romantic, but social attraction. Who do people lean toward? The man who needs to be chosen, or the man who chooses himself? When you adjust your behavior to keep someone interested, you signal that your world is smaller than theirs. And people instinctively respect those who operate from fullness, not hunger. This is why trying to prove your worth backfires. Value is never proven, it is assumed or withdrawn. Machiavelli advised rulers to avoid appearing desperate for loyalty. Because loyalty given out of pity dissolves under pressure, only loyalty given out of respect lasts. Translate this to your life. When you overtext, you dilute interest. When you chase closure, you hand over control. When you ask for reassurance, you teach others how to steady you. And once someone learns how to steady you, they also learn how to shake you. Fearless confidence begins when you stop needing emotional handholds. This does not mean becoming cold, it means becoming self-contained. Another truth most men resist is this: being nice is not the same as being good. Niceness is often a strategy to avoid conflict. Goodness requires strength. Machiavelli had little patience for moral performances. He understood that appearing harmless invites exploitation. When you are overly polite, overly patient, overly forgiving, you create a safe environment for disrespect. Not because people are evil, but because boundaries define behavior. A man without clear boundaries becomes a testing ground. People will push him not consciously, but instinctively. They want to know where the line is. If there is no line, they keep going. This is why nice men feel confused. They believe kindness should be rewarded. But what actually gets rewarded is clarity. Clarity tells people where you stand. Niceness hides it. When someone crosses a line and you laugh it off, you teach them that the line does not matter. When you confront emotionally, you teach them that they can provoke you. But when you respond calmly and reduce access, you teach them consequences exist. Machiavelli understood that punishment does not need to be loud. It needs to be consistent. Silence after disrespect is not avoidance. It is recalibration. You are not obligated to correct everyone. You are obligated to protect your position. Another truth that separates powerful men from reactive men is this: you do not need to be understood. This may be one of the hardest lessons. You want people to understand your intentions, your struggles, your reasons, but understanding is not required for respect. Machiavelli warned against oversharing motives, because motives can be debated. Results cannot. When you explain yourself, you invite judgment. When you act, you establish reality. This is why powerful men speak less, not because they are mysterious on purpose, but because words create openings. The more you talk, the more angles others have to challenge you. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to justify your distance. You don't need to narrate your transformation. Let people feel the change. Confusion in others is often a sign of growth in you. Another uncomfortable truth is this: your emotional transparency is being weaponized. You were told to open up, to express how you feel, to be vulnerable. There is truth in this, but timing matters. Machiavelli never argued against emotion. He argued against uncontrolled exposure. When you reveal everything to everyone, you give them a map of your inner world, and maps can be used for navigation or invasion. Not everyone deserves access to your fears, doubts, and wounds. Some will comfort you. Others will store the information. Later, consciously or not, they will use it. This is why fearless confidence includes emotional discipline. You choose when to speak. You choose who gets access. You choose what remains private. Privacy is not secrecy. It is sovereignty. The next truth reshapes how people treat you in groups. Attention is power. Where your attention goes, your power follows. If you constantly react to others, they lead. If you choose where your attention rests, you regain control. Watch yourself in conversations. Do you rush to respond? Do you fill silence? Do you laugh to smooth tension? These are signs of attention leakage. Machiavelli understood that rulers who chased public opinion were ruled by it. Those who set the tone controlled the room. You do not need to dominate conversations. You need to regulate your presence. Speak when there is something to add. Stop performing engagement. Silence, when chosen, increases weight. People lean in when you lean back. Another truth that many men misinterpret is about fear. Fear is not the opposite of confidence. Fear of consequence creates order. Machiavelli never suggested becoming terrifying. He suggested becoming costly to disrespect. Right now, for many people in your life, disrespect is cheap. They lose nothing by crossing you. Fearless confidence emerges when disrespect becomes inconvenient. You don't argue. You don't threaten. You withdraw access. Access is currency, your time, your attention, your availability. When people feel they can lose these, their behavior changes. This is not manipulation. It is reality. Even children understand this. They behave differently around authority figures with consistent consequences. Adults are no different. They just hide it better. Another truth cuts through ego. You do not need to win every interaction. You need to win position. Winning arguments often loses respect, because arguments signal emotional investment. Machiavelli warned that public victories create private enemies. Silent positioning creates stability. If someone tries to bait you and you decline the fight, you keep your power. If you engage to prove a point, you give it away. Confidence is not loud, it is settled. The last truth in this part is subtle but critical. You must be willing to be misunderstood. As long as you need people to see you as good, fair, or nice, you are trapped, because image management is exhausting. Machiavelli accepted that leaders would be judged unfairly. He focused on outcomes, not applause. When you stop managing perception, you free mental energy. That energy becomes presence, and presence is felt. People may not always like you, but they will sense something different. They will test less, push less, assume less, not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped leaking power. At this stage, you may feel quieter inside, less reactive, more observant. That is not detachment from life. That is engagement without dependency. In the final part, we will integrate everything. We'll connect these laws into a single operating system. You'll see how this changes your work, relationships, and self-respect. And you'll be given a clear challenge to test this in real life. For now, do not rush to act. Observe. Watch how people behave when you pause, when you delay, when you stop explaining. Power reveals itself in the reactions of others. By now, something fundamental should be shifting inside you. Not excitement, not aggression, but distance. Distance between impulse and action. Distance between stimulus and response. Distance between who you were trained to be and who you are becoming. This is the space where power lives. Most men never reach this point. They either stay reactive, or they swing to the opposite extreme and become loud, defensive, and fake. Dominant. Both are still controlled. Machiavelli never taught dominance through noise. He taught dominance through position. Position is invisible, but it shapes everything. At this stage, the rules you've heard are no longer separate ideas. They begin to merge into a single operating system. You stop rushing to be understood. You stop filling silence. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop offering explanations as peace offerings, and something strange happens. People begin to hesitate around you, not because you are threatening, but because you are no longer readable. This is where fearless confidence is born, not from bravado, from restraint. If you do not apply what you've learned, life will continue the same way it always has. People will test you casually. They will take small liberties. They will assume access to your time and emotional energy. You will feel busy but ineffective, connected but unseen, present but unrespected. And over time, that erodes something deeper than confidence. It erodes self-trust. You begin to doubt your instincts. You hesitate to assert yourself. You question whether you're allowed to take up space. That is not weakness of character. That is the result of living without leverage. But if you apply these principles, even imperfectly, the shift is immediate, not dramatic, but undeniable. People begin to choose their words more carefully. They stop interrupting as often. They give explanations without being asked. They sense that crossing you has a cost, even if they can't explain why. This is not about becoming cold or distant from everyone. It is about becoming selective. You learn that not everyone deserves your availability. Not everyone deserves emotional access. Not everyone deserves clarity about your inner world. This discernment is maturity. Machiavelli understood that indiscriminate generosity weakens authority. Strategic generosity strengthens it. You become generous by choice, not by compulsion. Present by decision, not by guilt. And this changes how you experience life. You feel calmer in conversations. You listen more than you speak. You respond instead of react. When tension appears, you don't rush to dissolve it. You let it exist, because tension reveals truth. You also stop mistaking urgency for importance. Just because someone wants an answer now does not mean they deserve one. Time becomes one of your strongest tools. Delay filters nonsense. Silence exposes motives. You will notice something else as well. Your energy stops leaking. You no longer replay conversations in your head. You no longer wonder if you said the right thing. You no longer feel the need to repair moments that didn't need repairing. This mental stillness is not emptiness. It is stability, and stability is rare. People are drawn to it without understanding why. Machiavelli never promised peace of mind. He promised clarity of action. And clarity is more valuable than comfort. Now comes the part most men avoid: responsibility. Once you see power dynamics clearly, you can no longer claim innocence. You can no longer say, "I didn't know." Every time you over-explain now, it is a choice. Every time you seek approval, it is a decision. This is not meant to burden you. It is meant to free you, because once something is a choice, it can be changed. You don't need to apply everything at once. In fact, you shouldn't. Choose one truth that unsettled you the most. Maybe it was silence. Maybe it was withdrawal of access. Maybe it was the idea that being liked is optional. Test it today, not tomorrow. Not next week, today, in one interaction. Say less, pause longer, do not explain, then watch. Watch how the other person adjusts. Watch how the dynamic shifts. That feedback is more valuable than any theory. This is not about playing games. It is about understanding the game that was always there. Machiavelli did not invent power struggles. He observed them. You are not becoming manipulative. You are becoming aware. And awareness changes behavior. As you continue this path, some people will drift away, not because you wronged them, but because they benefited from your old self. Let them go. What remains will be fewer, but stronger. Your confidence will no longer come from approval. It will come from alignment. Alignment between what you feel, what you say, and what you do. That alignment is felt instantly by others. You don't announce it. You embody it. Now, before this ends, listen closely. Fearless confidence is not loud. It does not posture. It does not seek validation. It sits quietly and decides. If this video opened your eyes even slightly, you already know what to do. Apply it, test it, observe, and if this marked a shift for you, write "I am the strategist" once in the comments, not to prove anything, just to mark the moment you stopped living for approval and started moving with intent. This is not the end. It's the beginning of control. Stay sharp.
Understand this first. The world is not fair. It never was, and it never will be. You are not guaranteed respect because you are decent. You are not guaranteed success because you work hard. You are not guaranteed influence because you have knowledge. None of these things create leverage on their own. Power, respect, and freedom come from positioning. They come from perception shaped by action, and from consequences made clear. To ignore this is to live blind, constantly reacting, constantly apologizing, constantly begging for approval that will never arrive in the measure you desire. Machiavelli would remind you, human beings are predictable, not in the sense that they act like machines, but in the sense that they respond consistently to incentives and signals. They will move toward comfort and away from cost. They will push boundaries until something stops them. They will value what is scarce and ignore what is abundant. If you live life without understanding this, you hand your agency to every person who crosses your path. You become readable, exploitable, and ultimately weak. You must understand that people rarely act out of pure morality. Most act out of self-interest. Some act out of habit or fear. A few act from strategy, even unconsciously. To expect loyalty, compliance, or admiration without understanding these drives is naive. Every interaction is a negotiation of influence, whether you admit it or not. Recognize that the world measures people not by their intentions, but by their effects and their presence. You must also recognize that appearances matter. Not for vanity, not for ego, but because others will always judge you by what they see, not what you intend. Invisibility, in the sense of being unreadable, is not weakness. It is leverage. People respect what they cannot predict. They fear what they cannot control. Machiavelli's observation was that those who let their actions and intentions remain ambiguous are harder to manipulate, harder to challenge, and more likely to survive and thrive in conflict, whether social, professional, or personal. Power is not about doing everything yourself. It is about arranging conditions so that others act in ways that serve your interest, often without realizing it. Influence is created by perception, scarcity, timing, and subtle pressure. When someone asks for an answer, do not rush. When someone expects compliance, do not deliver it immediately. When someone challenges you, resist the urge to justify or explain excessively. Every word, every gesture, every delay sends a signal. Your awareness of this signal is the difference between being a tool in someone else's game and being the one who sets the rules. Understand also that fear and respect are not the same. Fear without respect collapses into resentment and defiance. Respect without power is empty. The combination is subtle. You create a sense of consequence around your presence without needing to be cruel, loud, or vindictive. You do this by consistently defining boundaries and allowing others to feel them. If someone crosses the line, the consequence must be real, immediate, and measured. If the line is ignored repeatedly, your authority erodes. Silence, absence, or the removal of attention are often more effective than confrontation because they impose natural consequences without giving the other person ammunition to react. Time and attention are currency. Never mistake availability for generosity. Every instant you give to someone costs you something, whether it is energy, focus, or opportunity. Those who act without scarcity become cheap in the perception of others. Machiavelli would advise rulers to control access carefully. In your life, this translates into conscious attention. Decide where your focus goes. Decide who deserves your time. When people feel they can take it freely, they do and they devalue it. When they sense that your presence is selective, they honor it, whether consciously or unconsciously. Emotional exposure is another tool you must wield carefully. Vulnerability is not inherently weakness, but uncontrolled exposure is. You do not owe explanations, emotional transparency, or reassurance to everyone. Share selectively. Reserve your inner world for those who align with your interests or contribute value to your stability. When people do not have a map of your mind, they cannot easily manipulate you. When you are predictable emotionally, you are controllable. When you are calm in situations that unsettle others, you establish a form of psychological gravity. Accept that being misunderstood is inevitable. You cannot control perception entirely. People will misread your motives. They will invent reasons for your choices. They will project weakness where there is none and judge decisions without understanding. This is not a personal attack. It is the reality of human cognition. To chase approval or understanding in this environment is a trap. Instead, focus on alignment between your intentions and your actions. Let perception settle where it may. The consequence of integrity in positioning is stronger than the temporary comfort of being understood. You must also embrace the strategic value of absence. Presence without scarcity erodes respect. Withdrawal is not retreat, it is leverage. It allows others to reflect. It allows energy to accumulate. It allows dynamics to shift in your favor. When someone takes you for granted, the withdrawal of your attention or involvement will teach more than confrontation ever could. Actions speak louder than words, and silence carries weight when it is chosen, deliberate, and consistent. Be aware that people will always test boundaries. This is not a flaw in them, nor a flaw in you. It is a natural outcome of human interaction. Testing is information gathering. When someone pushes limits, they seek to measure risk, patience, and reaction. You cannot prevent testing, but you can control how you respond. Calm, consistent boundaries remove uncertainty. Predictable reactions for you mean predictable behavior for them. The opposite is chaos. You will not be controlled if you act with intention. Do not confuse morality with strategy. Being good does not require being predictable, and being fair does not require sacrificing leverage. Machiavelli observed that rulers who clung to moral absolutes often fell prey to those who understood the subtle mechanics of influence. In your life, this translates into the understanding that strategic choices are often neutral in morality but decisive in outcome. Protecting your position, enforcing boundaries, and managing perception are not evil. They are practical. Finally, understand the impermanence of control. Power is not static. Influence must be maintained. Trust, respect, and authority must be renewed with every interaction. Complacency is the silent killer of status. Your effectiveness comes from consistency, awareness, and presence. Every lapse in attention, every moment of predictability, every act of approval seeking chips away at the structure you have built. Vigilance is the price of freedom. Machiavelli's ultimate advice would be this: the world does not owe you alignment with your expectations. People will act according to their nature, circumstances, and incentives. Your responsibility is to act according to yours, to observe, to measure, to decide, to withhold where necessary, to act where decisive, to cultivate presence without obsession, consequence without cruelty, calm without passivity. To live not for approval, but for strategy. To move in the world not as a reactive participant, but as an intentional actor. This is reality. It is not glamorous. It is not sentimental. It is not forgiving. But it is predictable, measurable, and navigable. If you can internalize this, you gain what most men never will: a mind that is free, a presence that is respected, and a life conducted by design rather than by impulse. That is the truest form of fearless confidence. That is Machiavelli's advice, distilled for your life. And remember, do not confuse comfort with correctness. The truth of reality is often uncomfortable. The power that comes from it is often quiet. Do not chase applause. Do not chase understanding. Chase alignment. Build consequence. Maintain boundaries. Observe carefully. Choose deliberately. Act consistently. And above all, refuse to live for approval. Your life is your position. Protect it.